China created a strategy, pursued it, and tried on its own to decrease its own dependencies on the rest of the world, and has been remarkably successful. And that in EVs and batteries and critical materials, China has an extraordinary stranglehold, if you will, upwards of 80 and 90% market share, that now the United States and even Europe are trying to catch up.
大家好，美国连续发动贸易战、科技封锁和产业脱钩，真的成功阻止中国崛起了吗？还是说这一系列遏制行动反而正在让中国变得更加强大？在一场访谈中，外国主持人向中国国际问题学者高志凯抛出了这个极具争议的话题。当美国不断升级对华竞争，从贸易战到科技封锁，再到重塑全球供应链，美国究竟是在赢得这场竞争，还是正在亲手培养一个更强大的对手？访谈中，双方围绕新能源汽车、人工智能以及全球产业竞争展开了深入交锋。高志凯认为，中国在新能源领域的领先并非偶然，而是长期战略布局的结果。面对美国持续加码的科技竞争，中国不仅没有停下脚步，反而正在人工智能等关键领域不断缩小差距。更具争议的是，他还提出，美国真正需要面对的现实，或许已经不是如何阻止中国，而是如何适应一个正在发生深刻变化的世界格局。那么，中国为什么能够在多个战略产业实现快速崛起？美国还能继续保持领先优势吗？而这场持续升级的中美竞争，最终又将把世界带向何方？让我们一起走进今天的内容。
I think a lot of people who are critics of China or critics of this situation that the United States and China find itself believe that China, basically, to use a term you did, weaponized supply chains, weaponized strategic predatory targeting of industries. You know, what they're basically arguing is that China created a strategy, pursued it, and tried on its own to decrease its own dependencies on the rest of the world, and has been remarkably successful. And that in EVs and batteries and critical materials, China has an extraordinary stranglehold, if you will, upwards of 80 and 90% market share, that now the United States and even Europe are trying to catch up with. So to some degree, is China, and is this situation a victim of China's success at being so good at being able to strategically target industries it wanted to dominate and to be in, and now that's created a fear that that free trade system just didn't work out right in terms of balance?
Well, allow me to put EV car industry in historical perspective. Around 2012, when China decided to really put all the resources in developing this new sector. At that time, it was not certain at all that electric vehicle industry will be a splashing success, because at that time, lots of uncertainties in terms of the technologies, in terms of the supply chain.
Well, I remember I drove one of the first BYD vehicles in like 1997.
Really? Okay.
It was one of the test sites, and I knew it was going to be big.
Well, you are a visionary. You were a visionary then, and hopefully you will remain very optimistic about this industry. But China really took a big bet. Why? Because China wants to do the right thing to mitigate the impact of the climate change and the CO2 emission, etc. China wants to cut down its dependence on imported oil, crude oil. That's the driver for China's exploration of this EV car revolution. And China came up with an overarching view about how this industry should be done and what should be the prospect and how the supply chain should be structured or restructured. So you can say China has the vision and has the wisdom and has the courage to place such a big bet on the EV car industry, which in China's belief will really reduce the dependence on fossil fuel, which is what China really cares about. Now China turns out to be right. Other countries placed similar bets. For example, Japan placed a big bet on hydrogen car, which didn't materialize. So you cannot blame China for being visionary as well as very wise in placing the bet. And now China's production of EV cars already succeeded China's production of fossil fuel cars. And China's goal is to push the EV car production up to about 100% of all the vehicles produced in China.
Let me ask you a big question, Victor, and I ask it of many military leaders, foreign policy leaders, and political leaders in the United States. Why does it matter so deeply who wins the AI race?
Well, I think AI revolution is not only with us, it is going to shape and change everything we do as individuals, as families, as cultures, as civilizations, you name it. And I think several things stand out very sharply to me. First of all, AI is not American intelligence. Most people don't know that or don't want to figure that out. Secondly,
what do you mean by that?
Well, I think the way the Americans are building up their AI dominance is kind of in the belief that they should turn AI into American intelligence, which is not true. Secondly, for any country to really achieve AI dominance will be a recipe of great disaster for humankind. Because
even China?
For even China, just imagine any country building up AI dominance, what will it do? It probably wants to dictate to all the other countries. And that will really change the way we understand about sovereignty and the independent rights of nations, for example. Therefore, I think from the Chinese perspective, first of all, AI is not American intelligence. Secondly, AI should be open sourced rather than closed sourced. Therefore, AI should be developed in such a way that all countries should have a chance to participate. No AI dominance should be allowed. And then AI should not be hugely expensive, and the threshold should be lower and lower rather than higher and higher. And that is the way China is developing its AI. And I truly believe in a matter of 3 or 5 years to come, mankind should know very well the megatrend in the AI, which will be open sourced. Right. And I urge the American friends to really abandon the closed sourced way of developing AI. I think China and the United States are in the top league in terms of pushing the edge of the envelope as far as AI is concerned. And neither country is way ahead of the other country by any measurable means. And I think Mr. Jensen Huang of NVIDIA is probably right. If China's behind the United States, it's probably just by an iota, nanosecond behind the United States. And the fact that he keeps saying that top AI professionals are more than 50% Chinese from everywhere, mainland China, Taiwan, Malaysia, the United States, etc., does have a profound meaning. That is, the mind of the Chinese people using Chinese characters for thousands of years probably are better trained and better equipped to understand AI in the abstract sense of the word. And then the fact that China is producing about 3 million engineers of all kinds every year, putting them into this large pool of talents in China, many of whom are well trained for the AI revolution, means that if any country wants to push China down in terms of the AI revolution, probably they will fail. Working with China is the better. I think the United States has been overreaching for decades and probably has reached a point where it realizes that it does not have infinite resources to continue to practice overreach. And eventually you need to pull back.
You see overreach as encircling China, as, a string of pearls, right? Containing China?
Overreaching in many senses of the word, for example, try to police the whole world, try to launch one war after another to achieve its strategic goal, which eventually is not sustainable by any stretch of the imagination, and try to be more realistic and pragmatic, and also try to, for example, defend free trade, defend peace rather than using war as the first priority, should probably better serve the fundamental interest of the American people. Now, between China and the United States, I firmly believe in what I call the inevitability of peace between China and the United States, which is a kind of
the inevitability of peace.
inevitability of peace between China and the United States, meaning whether you like it or not, whether you like China or hate China, or dislike China, you cannot use war to achieve your goal. Eventually, you need to come to terms with China as a megatrend and solve whatever problems there are, which are plenty, in peaceful means, through diplomacy, negotiation, for example, to avoid war rather than embrace. I came up with this inevitability of peace theory, because I truly believe war should be absolutely avoided between China and the United States, because if you instigate a war between China and the United States, in conventional war terms, it will soon get out of control and escalate from conventional war into non-conventional war. And that probably will spell the doom for mankind, and it will be Armageddon in a sense. So I talk about inevitability of peace to anyone who has an.
纵观整场讨论，无论是新能源汽车的快速崛起，还是人工智能领域的激烈竞争，高志凯始终强调一个观点：中国今天取得的成果，并非短期爆发，而是长期战略布局和持续投入的结果。而美国试图通过贸易战、科技封锁和产业脱钩来延缓中国的发展，却未必能够改变全球科技竞争格局正在发生变化的现实。随着越来越多的新兴产业进入竞争阶段，中美之间的较量也正在从单一的经济竞争演变为科技、产业和综合国力的全面竞争。当然，对于高志凯的这些观点，国际社会也存在不同声音。有人认为中国正在快速缩小与美国的差距，也有人认为美国依然拥有难以撼动的科技优势。那么，你认为美国持续加码对华竞争，究竟是在成功遏制中国，还是反而加快了中国自主创新的步伐？未来的全球科技竞争，最终会是谁占据主动？欢迎在评论区留下你的观点，一起讨论。